Greetings, fellow Dungeoneers. This is your host, the DM of Doom. Throughout your travels, you may have heard terms like modifier, proficiency, inspiration, disadvantage, and so on, and you may think to yourself, what the heck do all of these words mean? Well, you're in luck, traveler. Today I will be going over these more advanced gameplay mechanics. Starting off today, we'll be taking a look at modifiers. Modifiers are what change your core stats based on your certain score. As you can see here, the lower score that you have, the lower the modifier. And opposed to that is the higher the stat, the higher the modifier. You can see the chart on page 10 of your player's handbook on the PDF. You can see here the chart. Depending on how low your score is, you have a low modifier, and higher, you have higher modifier. So you can see here that a strength score of 8 would fall in between here, and you would have a -1 modifier. Simple. So moving on, we will take a look at proficiencies. So how proficiencies work. Proficiencies are basically what your character excels at. We could take a look here on page 12 of our PDF here on how the proficiency bonus works. The proficiency bonus is based off of your character level, and at level 1 through 4, you have a +2 proficiency bonus. And then as you gain the level 5, you gain a +3 proficiency bonus. And at level 9, you get a +4, and etc., etc. So looking here, a level 1, you gain a +2 proficiency bonus. So what this means that anything that you are proficient at, you will gain a +2 bonus to that. So taking a look at the two different types of proficiency, we have our skill proficiencies and our stat proficiencies. On here we see these are our stats and these are our skills. So first we will looking at our stats. So looking here, we have a high elf wizard. And to determine what skills you are proficient at, stats. Alright, let's cover one thing real quick. Skills and stats, I will use those terms interchangeably. They're very confusing to understand which one is which. These are your stats, these are your skills. They will be used interchangeably. So moving on. Your core stats. Looking at your wizard here, which on your PDF is page 107, and down just a little bit. You will see here that your saving throws, which are also known as your stat proficiencies, are intelligence and wisdom. So in those fields for intelligence and wisdom, you will gain that +2 proficiency bonus. So looking here, all you have to do for your core stats is to check these two boxes next to intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence, wisdom. So here you can see that your intelligence of 16 will get you a +3 modifier to that, but since you are proficient in intelligence, you will also gain your proficiency bonus shown here, which is an additional +2, will get you a +5. Same with wisdom, a score of 14 will give you a modifier of +2, and since you are proficient, you will add your proficiency bonus shown here, so 2 and 2 is 4. Simple. So moving on. We will take a look at skill proficiencies. Skill proficiencies kind of correlate to your stats. As you can see here, let's take a look at acrobatics. Acrobatics is based off of your dexterity modifier. So taking a look back at core stats here, our dexterity has a modifier of +2 since we have a 15 in it. So coming back to here, you can see our acrobatics, we will gain a +2. So what this means is basically if you want to pull an acrobatic stunt during your travels, whether it be in combat or out, I will ask you to make an acrobatics check. So let's go ahead and do one of those now. So what this button here will do is we'll roll a 20-sided dice and add your +2 to it. So here we can see we rolled a 6. So what this really meant is we rolled a 4 on a 20-sided dice and it added our +2 dexterity modifier onto it. That probably wasn't a cool looking somersault, by the way. So, other things that you will need to know in here. Your skill proficiencies you can gain off of your background. You can also gain certain proficiencies based on your class, which you will choose when you create your character. So let's take a look really quick at a random background here, we chose a sailor. They are on page 131. So you can see here that just because you are a sailor, you will gain the skill proficiencies in athletics and perception. So coming back here in athletics, I go ahead and put yes on here. And also for perception, I will go ahead and put yes onto here. So what this also does is since you are proficient in these two certain items, it will add your proficiency bonus, which is 2 at level 1. So as you can see here, I am proficient in Arcana. That is due to my class of wizard I chose when I created my wizard. So we gain a +5 modifier. So what is this +5 bonus coming from? Let's take a look. So Arcana is an intelligence-based skill. So coming back to here, we have a +3 modifier, which is added to our 20-sided dice when we're rolling for Arcana. But because we are proficient in it, we also gain our proficiency bonus. So the 3 that we get from our intelligence plus our proficiency bonus, which is a 2, gives us 5. So taking a look at one more here. Actually, let's go into an example. So how do you use these? So let's give an example. Let's say you are traveling through a cave and you see these glyphs written onto the wall. And you want to say, do I understand what these glyphs say? So at this point in time, your dungeon master would say, go ahead and roll me either an Arcana or a religion check to see if you understand. So at this point, you have to choose, do you think, is it Arcana or is it religious? So let's say you decide, I'm proficient in Arcana, so if it is, I'll probably understand it better. So we'll go ahead and roll an Arcana check. So we rolled a 12, and once again, what this means is we rolled a 7, I can do math, a 7 on a 20-sided dice, and we added our 5 onto it, giving us a 12. So, you may or may not understand what it means. If the DM decides beforehand that the glyph is written in some religious language, you probably wouldn't understand it. But if it were Arcana with the 12, you may be able to pick out a couple of words. That's all dependent on your DM and how difficult the glyph is meant to be. So that is your modifiers and your proficiencies. So let's move on to a little bit more fun stuff. Before we do, let me show you a neat little trick that I learned. Here's your character sheet. If you double click up here, it kind of minimizes it, so it's always nice and readily available for you. And to bring it back up, you just double click it again. I do that a lot because I control a lot of NPCs. So let's move on to advantage, inspiration, and disadvantage. Let me get my kobold up here. So here we have an arena with our wizard fighting a kobold, and we will take a look at what it means to have advantage. Advantage is something given to you depending on certain circumstances. So let's say here a kobold has his back turned to you, and you were able to roll a sneak or a stealth check high enough where you can sneak up on the kobold and make an attack. So let's go ahead and swing our dagger, and like I said, since we were able to roll high enough on a stealth check, let's see if I do just for fun. So stealth, that. Yeah, 16, that was a pretty good roll. So yeah, I would say that you were able to sneak up on the kobold. So now that you have snuck up on the kobold is not aware that you were there. I will say that this is up to the discretion of the dungeon master when you have advantage or not. But in this case, obviously, I would say you definitely have advantage. So let's go ahead and roll your attack. Good example, perfect. Okay, so we know when we roll, we usually go off of this left number here. So we rolled a 9. The kobold's armor class is 10, so normally this would be a miss. But since we have advantage, we take a look at both of these numbers rolled, and we take the higher of the two, which gives you your advantage. So instead of taking the 9, we would actually take the 15, or whatever one's higher. So we would take a 15 as opposed to the 9, which a 15 is a hit for 6 damage. So the kobold would take 6 points of damage, so minus 6, bringing him down to 9 health. So that is how advantage works. Now let's take a look at disadvantage. So now on his kobold's turn, he is able to turn around quickly and notice that you're attacking him, and he takes his the hilt of his sword and trips you with it. So now you are laying prone. So I'll probably go ahead and add a this thing here. Yes, this thing here, and give you some sort of icon showing that you are prone. Usually I use this one for prone. So what prone means is you're laying down on the ground. So you would gain disadvantage on your next attack since you are laying down on the ground. So it's probably not, you can't really move around too well. So now it's back to your turn. So let's say you want to attack the kobold and finish him off. So since you're laying on the ground, you will attack with disadvantage. So we'll go ahead and roll your dagger attack again. Alright, so for disadvantage, it's the same thing as disadvantage is the same thing as advantage, but the opposite. Same thing but different. So what you would do is you would take the lower of these two numbers. And in this case, either way is a hit, since the kobold is a 10 armor class, and you would take the 11. Let's see if we can get a better example here. Yes, this would work. No, let me try one more time. Let's see what we can do. Alright, so here's a good one. So normally this would have been a critical hit, but since you are attacking with disadvantage, you would be forced to take the lower of the two rolls, which is a 13. Still a hit, but you don't get this bonus 4 damage. So that is how disadvantage works. So you would take the lower of the two, so you would only deal 5. It'd still be a hit because it's a 13 versus 10 armor class. So you would just take 5 off his health. So that is advantage versus disadvantage. The next thing I would like to cover, which is in relation to this topic, is inspiration. Inspiration is something that you gain throughout your travels. Let's take a look at Carrick here. In his character sheet, under core stats, there is a button down here that says inspiration, and then you could choose either yes or no. Obviously, everybody starts with no. In order to gain inspiration, that is something that your DM gives out to players who are either, following their character's background or just doing an absolute good job of role playing, getting other players submerged into the game. Let's say you're a player, you're playing your character and you're role playing, and you notice that one of the other players is not talking that much, and you start, involving them in things and start getting them to chat more. I will notice that, and I will say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and give you inspiration. So once I say that, you just check this here. You could also gain inspiration off of things. Let's say you are a cleric, and one of your features in your background underneath flaws, let's say your flaw is that you are, in this case here, no, let's say you are greedy. And let's say your cleric is at 80% health and your fighter is at 12% health. And you have one heal spell left. And you cast that heal spell on yourself instead of the fighter who needs it more. You're following your flaw of being greedy. I will notice that and give you inspiration. It might be something that puts your party in danger, but it's you following along with what your character is. So I will give you inspiration on that. So let me go ahead and take this prone icon off of here. So what you can do with inspiration is you can use that to change your die roll. So let's say we had this dagger attack here. It's a normal attack, nobody has advantage, nobody has disadvantage. But this 8 is going to be a miss. What you can do is you can spend a point of your inspiration to take the higher of the two numbers. So using inspiration is allowing you to give yourself advantage when you please, as opposed to it being situational. So you can choose to have advantage if you have a point of inspiration. Doing so would take away your points of inspiration, but at least you get the hit. So you would roll an 19 instead of this 8, and do 3 points of damage against the kobold. And for some reason that won't pop up like it's supposed to. Let's do that and that. So -3. So that is inspiration, advantage, and disadvantage. So now let's take a look at attack of opportunities. This is probably something that you're more familiar with, but let's say once again you are knocked prone on the kobold's next turn. So in the case you want to stand up, which by the way I know I was saying it differently, but just to clear it up, instead of taking your main action to stand up, I looked in the PDF file, and it actually just only takes a half of your movement away. So if you have 25 is your speed and you stand up, you'll be able to stand up but only move 10 feet. So it doesn't actually take your main action to stand up. But if you are standing up and a kobold is standing next to you, you're going to kind of be open for an attack. So that is what is known as an attack of opportunity. So on your turn, if you're down on the ground and you say, I want to stand up, the kobold will be able to get a free attack on you. And that does not take his turn. That's just kind of like a free attack. It's what is known as a reaction. So the kobold's going to be in combat with you this whole time and notice you, kind of like put your hands on the ground to kind of lift yourself up. He's going to see that as an attack of opportunity. So he's going to get a free attack on you. So as you're standing up, kobold will be able to swing with his short sword. He did a 9 versus your armor class of 12, so he missed. So you're able to stand up. Take that off of there. The kobold got his attack of opportunity. He missed, and that is that. So this will lead us into full out actions. There are a few things that you can do during your turn. You get up to 3 things that you can do. The first 2 main ones are your movement and your main action. Your movement we know is based off of your speed, which you can use your ruler here, so you can move up to 30 feet. So we know that. The second thing is your main action. So your main action, there are a ton of different things you can do. They're all listed on the PDF file, but I wrote them all here, so let's go through it. So on your main action, you are able to cast a spell. You can attack. You also have an option called dash that basically puts you in a full retreat. And if you decide to dash, that will actually double your movement speed. So as a high elf, you have a speed of 30. If you want to just go on full on retreat, you could actually move up to 60 feet. And that will use both your move action and your main action. You could also disengage. So what disengage will do is, say you just say, I'm going to move backwards. You will gain an attack of opportunity against you from the kobold. So if you, let's say this is the beginning of the turn. If you were here and you moved 5-10 feet forward, swung your dagger, and moved 5-10 feet backwards, that would take your movement and your main action because you attacked. But since you retreated from the kobold, you will gain an attack of opportunity against you. Now let's say the beginning of the turn starts now. The kobold moves up to you, swings, and misses. And let's say you're really low on health. So let's go ahead and put you at 2 health. So let's say you want to get away from this kobold. Instead of attacking, you may disengage from the kobold, which would use your main action. So you would be able to use your movement. So let's say we move here. So you can use your movement to move away, and you will not gain an attack of opportunity against you because you used a disengage as your main action. So the next thing would be dodge. We explained this a little bit. I think we called it block or something in one of our sessions, but it's called dodge. You can call it block, it doesn't matter. So what this would do is you would gain, the kobold would gain disadvantage when he attacks you on his next turn. So let's say once again you're low on health and you have nowhere to run. So let's say you're in this corner and you are unable to flee. So so instead of attacking, you may block or dodge. So what the kobold would do when he attacks you, he would gain disadvantage on his attack. You could also use something called help. Let's say you've got an ally that's trying to open a door and he can't pull it open himself, you can move over and help him with it, and that would give him advantage on his next skill check. So let's say he's let's take a look. Pull this up. So if an ally of yours was trying to pull open a door, I'd probably ask him to roll an athletics strength check. So if he's trying to pull it open and he can't, and you come over and say, I want to use my main action to help him, what your ally would do on his next turn is roll twice. And roll once. You click the button once, but it rolls twice. So in this case, we'll use this case here. So you would give your ally advantage, so he would roll this 12 as opposed to the 6. So that is helping. The next thing we'll have is hide. That's a really long subject, so I'm not going to get into it in this video. You could take a look at what it means to hide in the PDF file. You could also ready an action. So let's say you are standing here and the kobold is here, and let's say that you only have 10 feet of movement left in your turn, so you're not going to be able to get up to the kobold to swing. So what you can do is you can move here. So let's go ahead and do that. And then instead of attacking, let's say you don't have any spells or ranged weapons, what you can do is ready an action. So you would use your main action to ready an action. And then in this case, you would tell me what you want to do. You would tell me, when the kobold comes within 5 feet of me, I would like to swing my dagger. And that is also considered what would be a reaction. So what would happen, let me pull up this turn order here. And let me do, let's see. Let me go ahead and add turn and add turn. So let's say it's your turn and you can't attack him from here, so you're going to ready an action and say, I want to swing my dagger when he comes within 5 feet. So that will put it at the kobold's turn. And the kobold's going to see you, and obviously he's going to run at you. And at this point, because you readied an action, you will be able to attack as a reaction. So you would be able to go into here and swing your dagger, which a 6 was a miss. But that didn't take up your turn because you readied it the previous turn. So once that happens, it would switch over to the kobold will be able to attack if he wants. So the kobold, let's see, he will go ahead and attack, which would do 12 versus your armor class, 5 damage, which would kill you in this case, but we're going to ignore that happened. So once that all happens, it'll go on to your turn, and you will be able to do your turn from here, so you'd be able to attack again. So readying an action, you can ready an attack, you can ready a spell, or ready basically anything. Just let me know what you want to ready. So the next thing that you do on your turn is search. You can use your main action to devote time to search for something in the room. Let's say you're working on a puzzle, and while you're working on this puzzle, this pesky kobold's attacking you, but you can't seem to kill him because there's something in the room that's, let's say, healing him. So instead of attacking, you can say, I want to search the room for something that may be, powering this kobold up. So you would search the room, and I'd say, oh, there's a little switch on the ground over here, or some, pressure plate that you find in this corner. So you might want to walk over and investigate it. So next thing is using an object. So on your main action, you can use an object, such as like a lever, like if this plate was over here. You would have to wait till your next turn since you used your main action already to search. But so once you find this lever, you can move on over and use your main action to pull the lever, or use an object such as a healing potion or whatnot. So that covers a majority of what you can do on your main action. You also get a bonus action, and you can use up to 1 bonus action on your turn. Certain skills, spells, and abilities state that they can be used as a bonus action. So how to think of this? When it's your turn, you you got to keep in mind that your turn usually lasts about 5 to 8 seconds in game time. Obviously, you have all the time in the world to think of what you actually want to do, but your character is only experiencing about 5 to 8 seconds. So just think, if you're moving, it takes you 5 seconds to go about 30 feet or whatever. If you're attacking, it takes you about 3 to 5 seconds to actually swing your weapon or cast a spell. Bonus actions are considered to be instant. So something like a word of healing that clerics have as a level 1 spell can be used as a bonus action that happens instantaneous, and it doesn't actually really take time out of your turn. Okay, I think that covers most of the combat I wanted to go over with. The last thing that I do want to say about it is explain how range attacks work. Let me go ahead and pull up this here, and it's around page 140. Yep. Let's say we have a short bow. You can see here that the short bow has a range of 80/320. And what this means is you can attack a creature that is up to 320 feet away. This 80 here shows that it's more of the preferable range, but you can you can go up to 320. So this 80, what you would do is if it was within 80 feet, you would just attack it. If it was 80 feet or more up to 320, you would actually attack with disadvantage. So if there's something that you're attacking that's 200 feet away, you can attack it with your short bow, but you would gain disadvantage on it. As opposed to if you were shooting something that was only 30 feet away, you would just gain a regular attack on it. So one last thing I want to cover is resting. Resting in the game is important, but you don't always have a chance to rest. There are two different kinds of rests. There is a short rest and a long rest. Short rests are a period of downtime lasting at least 1 hour in which your character does nothing strenuous. In this time, you can spend a hit die, which a hit die is a different topic I'd like to break off into really quick. Your hit die is based off of your class. So as you can see here, sorcerers and wizards get a d6, bard, cleric, druid, rogue, monk, warlock get a d8, fighter, paladin, ranger d10, and barbarians a d12. So as a wizard here, we have a d6, we have 1 d6 hit die. You gain 1 hit die per character level. So let's say we want to level up to a level 2 wizard. We would come back here and we would have 2 hit die. Let me go ahead and switch that back before I forget. So, in your short rest, notice how you're down to 2 hit points. Let's say this kobold dies. Get rid of him. So now you're out of combat and you would like to rest, and you have no healing potions, no cleric around, whatnot. But you're really dangerously low on health. So what you can do is you can say, I would like to gain or take a short rest. So during your short rest, you can use a hit die. You would change this to 1, showing that you have used 1 of 1, and you roll this dice. So here we actually show, hold on a sec. Alright, I'm actually gaining a +1 from somewhere. That I'll have to look into. So anyways, so here you would gain 7 hit points back, but you would also expend your hit die. Yeah, I'll have to look into that, where I'm getting that +1. I've never noticed that before. I'll have to read about that. So anyways, so you gain 7 health back. So we would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we're already at max, so we stop there. So in a short rest, you may expend any and all hit die. So let's say you have 52 health. You have 7 of 52 health. And let's say you are a level 8 wizard. You will have 8 hit die to use. So you can use 1, you can use 2, you can use 3, all the way up to 8. Or you could use 0. So you can roll this 8 times and gain as much health back as you want. So that is a short rest. A long rest is the same thing as a short rest. The only exception is it's 8 hours long. So here's the definition of a long rest. It is a period of downtime at least 8 hours long in which a character does nothing strenuous. A player may spend up to 2 hours keeping watch. So if you have another person in your party, you can keep watch and make sure you don't get ambushed. You gain much more benefits in a long rest than you do a short rest. So in a long rest, you will gain all of your hit points back. You will also regain all of your expended spell slots, and you will regain half of your spent hit die back. So as long as you can go 8 hours straight without being ambushed or do anything strenuous, you will gain all of those benefits. Let's say you rest for about 5 hours and a kobold sneaks up on you and attacks you. You will have to restart your 8 hours from the beginning. You don't pick up where you left off. So if you go 5 hours, get attacked, you have to start over again from 0 hours. So the only other thing I want to say about resting is if you are unconscious, you do not gain any benefits from resting. If you are unconscious, you will have 0 hit points or less. So during a rest, either a short rest or a long rest, the only thing you will gain is 1 hit point. So if you're unconscious and your group decides to take a long rest, you will go from 0 hit points to 1. You will not regain any expended spell slots nor any hit die. So that should be pretty much all I wanted to cover here. Like always, if you have any questions about anything, let me know. These are just a couple of newer things in the 5th edition that we're playing. So let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you all later.